It was on September 2nd that we posted the podcast with the title, Has Cheating Ruined the Golf Scramble Forever? I never imagined that over 73,000 of you would watch and several thousand of you would comment. So today, we turn to some of your frustrations and your suggested solutions as part of our follow up report straight ahead. Well, it was September 2nd when we posted the original podcast, Has Cheating Forever Ruined the Golf Scramble? And my guest then is my guest now. Sean Fairholm with My Golf Spy joined me because I was working on a cheating story and then I saw his column on My Golf Spy. So we got together and kind of compared notes. And Sean, maybe you guys are used to this at My Golf Spy. I'm really not as accustomed to it. 73,000 views later, people are ticked off about what's happened and what is happening in the golf scramble world. What have you continued to hear from your column in our podcast since early September?
Just a lot of passion. I think in golf, cheating is kind of something that gets people riled up because other sports, a lot of times you don't really have that opportunity. It's hard to cheat at basketball or football or another game where you're playing against somebody. But when you're on your own, especially in a scramble format where there's just four people and you can kind of make whatever score up you want, people get ticked off when they realize that those people are going off and just doing whatever they want and kind of ruining it for other people. Yeah, a lot of passion on all sides, really, of people who just really don't like cheating and people who want scrambles to be changed, and then propose solutions for scrambles to change. It's a lot of opinions on both sides.
That's for sure. And in fact, the proposed solutions, and I should say that our video has received, I think, over 1,000 comments in the YouTube section. Some of them are legitimate solutions, and then the others are, we should arm the Rangers with firearms and that kind of thing. Obviously, that's a little silliness, but I found that some of the strongest comments came from PGA professionals, or at least those claiming to be. I didn't go and take the time to look at the credentials of the people saying I'm a lifelong golf professional. Here's one from @Billy Denton. He said, this really ticks me off. Golf pros have been complicit in where we find ourselves now. 3-player scrambles go out in 6-somes or 4 players at 8-somes. Tournaments need a handicap committee with a golf professional. Handicap should never occur. This is easy stuff to fix, and I can tell you the specifics if requested. No mulligans. Tournament organizers must get their payoff act together. And he goes on this long, long rant, all caps, right? That's when you know somebody's irritated. Stupid. None of this nonsense is helpful. And what charities don't comprehend, there are companies and decision makers who are in control of the monies designated for the charities. They want competitive golf. This guy's worked up, Sean. I mean, worked up. And then as we get near the end of a long diatribe, he says, you don't know if there is a fix for it? 2 question marks, exclamation point, makes me furious. Have either of you had any personal tournament operation experience? It doesn't seem like it. Somehow, Sean, you and I are getting scolded by this guy.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. I have not put on a golf tournament by myself. I guess he's right with that.
I
So that's
have,
fair.
I have, and I've also played in so many of them. You don't have to be a tournament organizer to understand when a tournament is poorly run. That's pretty good.
Agreed.
What are some of the more realistic solutions that you've seen suggested?
Well, I think, like the one that I suggested last time was having a playoff, having I think it's unrealistic to have, scorers in each group or anything like that. Anything that would require more manpower, I think is probably a little bit too difficult to pull off. But I still like the playoff idea of having multiple groups have a one hole playoff or doing something else like that. Um, I think live scoring is helpful to at least have people entering scores as they go rather than just showing up with, hey, we shot 46, so people could actually see the scores, you know, happen in real time. Oh, this group's 12 under through 10 holes. Okay, there's a red flag here rather than just showing up with a scorecard. What are some that you've seen that you like?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the live scoring. So the Golf Genius app is one of those avenues that tournaments will use. And there was one comment, and I certainly am not going to find it now out of all the hundreds, that said, we were using live scoring through Golf Genius and we were behind the group that wasn't able to hit a ball in the air and watching them post 3 eagles on the front and 4 birdies. And so they were just literally putting in fake numbers. They could have stayed home and entered the same kind of a score.
Right. Yeah, and
So
I've seen this too in scrambles where there's a group behind me or ahead of me, and you're thinking, oh, they're shooting 71, and then you look at the scores and it's
51.
62, and you're like, whoa, okay, that's different than what I saw.
It is always funny to look at. I think well-intentioned people coming up with their versions of solutions. Here's one from Jeffrey Rayborn, 1871. He says, the only way I can see of policing a golf tournament is to have streaming cameras, 3 or more to a hole, and recorders for each, and a computer program to search and find each group throughout their round of play. That way, when a group comes in with a low score, it's possible to see how they got it or if they cheated. All right. That's probably a little bit more infrastructure investment than your local, hospital fundraiser is able to put together. But I saw a lot of people come out and say, I know when I enter a scramble, I already know it's going to be won by people who are cheating.
Yeah.
And the suggestion has been from dozens and dozens of people, if I were playing in a tournament where I knew that it was just going to be given to whoever came in and posted it, a 19 under, I'd kind of think it was fun to do a blind draw for
Mhm.
the winning team and then maybe given a prize to the third place team so that the winners didn't have any more of a chance than everybody else. Do you take away the incentive to even play well and to win if you start doing blind draws?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good idea. I don't mind that. I think a lot of this goes back to what do these tournament organizers actually want to get out of this? And I don't think a lot of these people that are putting on these events really care about the integrity of the golf as much as the golfers do, which is kind of there's this push and pull that we always go back and forth. Like as golfers, we want a competition that is fair and but should you even try to play well in a scramble or just have fun with it and just forget it? As golfers, like I'm not wired that way. I want to win, and I want there to be a prize for winning. But I do think at this point, it's probably not really worth it to just give a prize to whoever wins, unless you were to do like some kind of playoff or something else where you actually can show your golf skill.
Chris Scott, 5561, says, I play in a few scrambles a year, and it's always the least talented looking groups shooting insane scores. So maybe you're gathering around the carts that are all lined up for everybody to go out. You just kind of walk through. You're like, all right, you're not winning. You're not. It's just going to base it solely on your visual impressions of the folks out there. Uh, a lot of people, though, really are kind of here's a good example. This is Kolchak 357. A lot of people are resigned to what it is. He says, he or she says, cheating is rampant in scrambles. I've never been on a winning team in my life. I just push it out of my mind. I don't care about the prizes. I'm just out to have fun with my buddies. But I do have friends that refuse to play in scrambles anymore. And I've been behind winning groups where I actually saw what they were scoring, and it is really crazy. It kind of feels, Sean, like we're falling into two camps in the world of fixing the cheating and scrambles. One is, hey, look, it's just going to happen. I'm just out for a day. Maybe the boss let me out of the office for half a day to represent the company, and I don't really care what happens. And then you have that other side that's really frustrated because they just want to play well, and have a shot at winning whatever the prize happens to be. Is there a third camp to this?
I don't think so. I think it's those two camps, and I think both of them are probably fair to say. I mean, a lot of people who show up to scrambles do not care what happens, right? They're just there to drink some beers and to have a good time and enter a raffle and just have some fun. But there are golfers out there who care for sure. Like there's two sides to the camp, but yeah, I would say anyone wearing cargo pants, they're out. They would be on that would be the number one draft pick for if you're wearing cargo pants and you win a scramble.
Okay, so so glad you brought up the cargo pants. Somewhere in this long stream of comments to the video, the original video, somebody took exception to your mentioning of cargo pants in our first conversation, and they challenged you to a duel because this person basically said, "I wear cargo pants every time I golf. I'm a I don't maybe a +2 or a 2 or something like that, and I want to crack it. You know, how dare you make fun of the cargo pants? I want to crack at Sean or something." I was like, so I didn't know if I was supposed to set up a cage match with the two of you or what, but
You know,
go
if he's a
deeper.
+2, then I'm gonna need a lot of shots.
Right.
So that's fine with me. You're giving me a lot of shots then.
At Joe Rockstar says, I won a tournament's most honest player award. I've never heard of that. I don't know how you award that. He says, how? By posting a score that was obviously what my team was capable of and not the ridiculous lies that other teams were posting. Now, as somebody who is sometimes on the organizing end of these golf events, I don't want to be in charge of the awarding the most honest player award. Because you're going to have 85% of the people in the room going, he cheated to get the most honest player award. I mean,
The irony, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. It's also just the worst score, right?
we've got some comments that are kind of citing Patrick Reed as the inspiration for golf scramble cheating. Seems like a bit of a stretch, but how often did you kind of run into that name in the follow-ups to your story?
Yeah, I think cheating in scrambles predates Patrick Reed cheating at Augusta State and all of his cheating. So, but yeah, that name is definitely synonymous with cheating now. But I think cheating in scrambles goes back way before he was around.
You know, in this era of murder mysteries and real true crime podcasts in solving these things as a listener, we've got some folks that watched our video and decided to set out in their own investigative realm. So here's Peter Austin 4295. Here we go. Following a scramble where the winning score was -20, I did a mathematical analysis using PGA Tour ball striking and putting averages to determine the probability of actually achieving such a score in a 4-person scramble. In parentheses, if you're interested in the methodology, please let me know in a comment. Okay. So the results showed that shooting -18 or better on 18 holes is very unlikely, like 1 out of 150. And that's with a team of 4 tour players. Obviously, then the odds of 4 amateur golfers, even single digit handicaps, is incredibly low, probably about 1 in 15,000 or so. And he goes on to kind of spell out the math a little bit. He says that's mathematically impossible and clear evidence of widespread cheating. I kind of feel I kind of feel a little ashamed, Sean, that neither of us dug out the abacus and did the sort of homework that is required for that level of data analysis. So are you now committing to spending the rest of your week looking at tour stats and applying them to scrambles?
I want to get proximity to the hole involved here. Yeah, we got to get everything involved here. I was going to ask you, what do you think realistically 4 tour players would shoot in a scramble? Let's assume it's just a local uni like you would have at a normal scramble. Could they get to 23 under? I think they probably could.
Without a doubt. Let's
Yeah.
remember a couple things. And the DeChambeau series on YouTube gives us a little snapshot of this because he's playing from the forward tees and trying to break 50, which is 22 under. He's doing it with 2 players. The other one is not usually. I think he did one with Sergio, but not normally a tour pro. He did one with Daly, who was not the least bit interested in the actual golf. And they've come very close, mostly on Bryson's ball, right? You get 4 of them. And remember this, folks, you're playing in scrambles with a course that is generally going to be set up at about 6,200 yards. This is for players who are accustomed to playing 7,500 yards. You're playing it on a course where there's very little penalty for veering off the fairway. These guys are, well, they're bombers. They're precision in every part of their game. And of course, they putt much better than any of us could ever dream of putting. If you gave me 4 PGA Tour players, I don't care which 4 they are. If you gave me 4 PGA Tour players and they were legitimately invested in it, like it's a big time payout for them, I honestly see no reason why they're not going 25 under par. I really don't. And the only thing that would, your par threes are going to be, 160 at the most. There's no chance they're not going super duper deep, which is what makes the claims by some of these amateur teams all the more comical.
Yeah, I would say I think that's right. I think the ceiling is probably because at a certain point, like you're not holing out on par fours in your second shot, and par threes, you're not making aces or anything like that. Assuming no mulligans, yeah, 11 birdies, 7 eagles, I think would be a realistic possible mark for tour players. So obviously, 4 amateurs are not going to come anywhere close to that.
No, the tour pros are reaching every par five with probably a short to mid iron. And from there, it's just eagle after eagle. They're driving many of the par fours, and yeah, they're not even breaking a sweat in this. By the way, you and I also have acquired the label of being golf Karens, according to Dave Danders 2107. He says cheating's been going on for 50 years or more. Apparently, we didn't know that. The main difference now is there are so many more Karens who give a crap like you two. I've played in dozens of scrambles many times with some scratch players and never won and never thought about cheating. Always had a good time. I don't know what to do with that, but I will now refer to you as Karen Fairholm.
I've been called everything at my golf spy, so that's not going to phase me too much. But hey, if you have fun playing in a scramble, I have fun playing in a scramble. I'm not saying scrambles are not fun, but they could be better.
Let's go to Barry Goodson, 4952. Cheating was commonplace 30 years ago. Cheating in the scramble, closest to the pin, long drive. I've seen it all, a whole lot. I've called people out about cheating. It never does any good, which brings me to a question about peer pressure. And if you think that there's any avenue towards, I don't know if it's shame, guilt, um, or just kind of trying to appeal to common decency, is there anything that can happen before scramble starts? And I'll give you an example of what I've tried to do at a couple of them. But is there any kind of an example of what can happen before the scramble starts that might, if they're listening, catch the ear of those who are planning to win no matter what happens?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is having some form of skills competition before the round, like a putting contest or something on the range before or after, I guess. But just something. I think people get shamed by their actual golf game, and if everybody sees that somebody is not what their score is, I think that's really the main way of shaming someone. You could definitely bring it up in announcements too, saying we want everyone to play by the rules when everyone's about to go out. But I think there has to be something. That's why I brought up the playoff thing last time.
Yeah.
And I don't know what people think about that necessarily, but you have to have people in that environment. If you're going to go out and shoot 48 or say you shot 48, you need to show that you can play. Obviously, that's basically impossible. So, but you need to have your golf game on the line somehow. So whether it's some kind of skills competition or something, I think a playoff or something that forces people. That is the peer pressure that I'm thinking of.
A couple of the scrambles that I do for charitable causes have very nominal prizes, and I will make a point in the announcements before they head out to play that this is a fun day. It's a no pressure day. And by the way, the prizes are not worth cheating for because
Mm.
you're not going to have to report them to the IRS. And they usually get a good chuckle out of it. And generally speaking, it feels like we have realistic scores coming back in. This is an interesting bit of precision from at two state 7822. You talk about digging deep into our first video. He says at the 550 mark, there's very precise. There's a comment that cheating is not necessarily related to the prize. That has been proven true in any number of sports and games. In chess and card games, people cheat with absolutely nothing at stake. When playing solo, some golfers will just cheat even if there is no opponent. The only solution to cheating is to have people assigned to each group and monitor scoring and all that. Question for you. Is it possible to cheat when you're playing a solo round of golf?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you could cheat yourself.
Yep.
Definitely. If you're negotiating a score with yourself, I think so. No, you're not necessarily posting a score, but to me it's cheating. I mean, that'd be my opinion. But I think I mentioned something in the first video about how golfers there's an insecurity to golfers, and I think that's why we see a lot of these like 52s coming in. That golfers are so insecure that they kind of go too far in the other extreme of wanting to show that they're good, and they don't realize how low their scores are. Yeah, I think that's right. That the prize is not necessarily uh, does not necessarily dictate how much somebody wants to cheat.
At Lefty 1027, I'm just going to assume this is Phil. At Lefty 1027 says, why is suddenly everyone acting like cheating in scrambles hasn't been a problem forever? If you play in a four-man scramble, you should 100% expect people to be cheating. He may be right. He or she may be right. I kind of hate to think that way. I don't know. Maybe I've got just a little sliver of optimism or glasses somewhat full in me that I'd like to think that as I turn around and look 360 degrees at the beginning of a scramble, I'm not looking at cheaters at every possible angle.
Yeah.
Should we 100% expect cheating?
Yeah, I think what's happened is yes, cheating has always happened in scrambles, but we realize it so much more now because there's TikToks coming out and there's articles like this and there's all sorts of different means. There's Reddit. There's people are posting all these scores. I think I'm a little taken aback about how rampant and how extreme some of the cheating is, even though I realize it's always happened in the past. For someone to come in with like a 42, for example, it's just kind of comical. And I think these kind of scores and everything are being shown a lot more, and we have more access to them than we did 20 years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, it's expected. It's expected at this point that that's going to happen. But I think it's good that we shame people
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah. At JBach 2854 says just have raffle tickets for prizes and forget about the scores. Maybe just have prizes for long drive, longest putt, etc. I don't know that forgetting about the scores is the ideal solution because there's got to be some reason you're going to spend 5.5 hours out on the golf course. It can't just be, hey, I paid my $150 for the charitable outing. I'll see you guys at the dinner because I'm just going to get into the raffle. Forget about the score. How does that sit with you?
I don't really like that. I think one of the things I mentioned in the first video is the charm of the scramble is when you're sitting around with your friends the night before, charting out strategies and talking about if you know the course, talking about certain holes, like what's your batting order going to be like. I think that's kind of the fun part of scrambles is that there is in your mind some consequence, and I guess it's kind of a mental trick because as we're talking about it, we're realizing it doesn't really matter what you score. But I don't know. It's kind of fun to talk about and to celebrate big moments when you're in a scramble. And I don't know. To me, there's still something there. I think it's kind of the like pick your poison. I think it is an option, but it's not really the best option.
How about one more? Here's a solution from I don't understand this username. It's three I's, SWLIII again. He says, I have a simple solution. Raise the entry fee by $50 and hire 18 officials for the tournament. They could be local high school kids or part-timers. Each official is assigned a hole to monitor play and record the score for every scramble team. No more dirt bag cheating. Okay, in theory, pretty good idea. In practicality, literally impossible. Right?
It could happen, but it is extremely unlikely.
Well, I mean, these days businesses are having a hard time finding employees for their normal run of business schedules. I don't know where you're going to find 18 kids, but if you could make that happen and they were paying attention because a lot of them would be spending the entire day looking down at their phones and then going, yeah, good par, looking over there, or good eagle, I should say. But I really appreciate all the suggestions. Believe me, we could go on, Sean and I, for several hours just reading through your responses. But we can tell this, that the conversation definitely struck a nerve. And we promised you during our first round on September 2nd that we would do a follow-up report. Uh, so do we draw conclusions here, Sean? I mean, is there a takeaway from the follow-up report other than, yeah, people agree there's too much cheating going on and it really turns them off of scrambles?
I think in the end, we'll probably just continue on as we always have. I don't think anything's going to change. I think there are some solutions out there that could help if organizers are interested in the integrity of the competition. But at the end of the day, I think ultimately we're probably going to continue mostly as we have. And maybe a lot of people who care and take things seriously, maybe it's time to just say, hey, if I'm going out to play in a scramble, it doesn't really matter. I shouldn't really get worked up about it. That's not really me. I get worked up about things like that, but I'm a Karen, Bill. So
Well, as I was thinking through this whole kind of this broad picture, I realized that there are some solutions. Like I talked to one of my PGA professional friends, Kyle Martin, at the Fortress Golf Course in Frankenmuth, Michigan. They do a million outings there. And he said, yeah, we've dealt with it before. What we do now, if we're in charge of the scoring, and oftentimes the charity is in charge of all of it. So it's not always up to the PGA professional. He says, when we are in charge of it, we take the scores in total and we flight them top third, middle third, bottom third, however they come in. And then there are prizes for the first and second place in each tier, in each flight. And that way, if you've cheated your way to a minus, 27, congratulations, you're going to win that. But the prizes might even be lesser for those in flight one than they are for flight 2 and 3. So everybody has a chance to win. A very interesting approach to all of that. Good stuff. Hey, thank you all. I don't know if 72,000 of you or 73,000 of you will watch the follow-up report, but I found it fascinating on a daily basis to continually see more and more of your thoughts and comments come in. So we'd love to have you subscribe to the podcast here. You can go to My Golf Spy and check out everything that Sean writes and does for that really great team over there. And we'll continue the conversation. That's for sure. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.